Paid for my stepdaughter's wedding because she said I was like a real dad. Then she uninvited me, so I uninvited my credit card too. Hello everyone, welcome to Reddit Visuals. Here's the part that still stings. I used to believe gratitude was a down payment on loyalty. Turns out some people treat gratitude like a coupon, single use, non-refundable, and only valid until someone flashier shows up. I'm Mark, 48, married to my wife Claire. I don't do drama. I build kitchens, pay bills on time, label the breaker box, and keep spare batteries in a drawer that everyone makes fun of until the remote dies. I married Claire 16 years ago when her daughter Danielle was 8. Her biological father, Tom, existed the way a comet exists. Rarely seen, loudly announced, mostly a light show that disappears when you need heat. I wasn't trying to replace anyone. I did school pickups. I learned how to braid hair, badly at first, then okay. I sat on bleachers at 6 a.m., tournaments that smelled like rubber floor and old coffee. Every milestone, I was there, not because I was auditioning, but because we were a family. When Danielle got engaged at 24, she cried on my shoulder first. "You're like a real dad," she said, the kind of sentence that sits softly in your chest and makes space for everything else. I said yes to what came next, because that sentence unlocked a door in me I didn't even realize was still locked. Here's how you end up paying for a wedding without noticing the slope. It starts with a venue hold fee that will be applied later. It's the tasting that only confirms you're on the right track. It's the florist whose email subject line is "just a tiny update," and the photographer with a wait list that sounds like a medical trial. I paid deposits because I could. I also paid because Danielle asked me with that same earnest voice she used as a kid when she wanted extra ketchup packets, and because every time she thanked me, it hit the same neuron that fired when she called me from freshman dorms to tell me she nailed her first midterm. I didn't keep a scorecard, but receipts keep themselves. The folder in my desk swelled. Venue deposit, second deposit, balance, cake tasting, band, efficient. A dress with a laced back that took a small committee to figure out and somehow cost more than the first car I owned. When the total crossed a number I'd promised myself I'd never say out loud again, I told myself it was fine. I told myself this is what dads do. If the story ended there, we wouldn't be talking. 2 months out, I asked for the final guest list, partly because I wanted to make place cards for the friends I'd invited, partly because I like spotting typos before they're printed on 250 pieces of pearl cardstock. Danielle smiled and said they were still massaging the numbers. I made a joke about shoulder rubs. She didn't laugh. A day later, my friend Paul texted a screenshot of an Instagram story from Danielle's fiancé, AJ, boomeranging place settings with the caption, "Team Bride plus Team Blood." I didn't understand the joke, but I understood the seating chart. My 20 seats had become 2. My 2 had become 0. I didn't blow up. I asked Claire gently, then directly, then with one more gentle question at the end to be polite. She said the venue was strict, and AJ's family was large, and we'll squeeze people where we can. "Squeeze who?" I asked. "You know," she said, and then looked at her hands. That's when I knew Claire was caught between protecting me and protecting Danielle, and she'd chosen wrong. A week later, I walked into the kitchen and found a trifold brochure on the island. Tasks for the father of the bride. There was a yellow highlighter over "Be supportive," and an empty space where "Walk her down the aisle" used to live. Someone had used whiteout. It left a chalky scar on the paper, like they weren't just erasing text, they were sandblasting the past. The conversation happened in my living room. Danielle, radiant even in sweatpants, AJ with his hands steepled like a podcast guru, Claire trying to be a bridge while standing on quicksand. Danielle started carefully. "We've been thinking about the ceremony. We want it to reflect our truth. I am a man who can assemble a dishwasher from a manual printed out of order. I can handle vague. Okay, what truth are we reflecting?" A J jumped in. "It's important for Danielle's biological father to give her away. It's about honoring origins." "Origins," I repeated the word, feeling something cold slide between my ribs. "Tom?" Danielle nodded. "He's really trying. He's been so present lately. Present like a pop-up ad." Tom had resurfaced 3 months earlier with a new girlfriend, a newfound interest in being there, and a sudden flood of texts to Danielle about making up for lost time. 16 years of lost time, apparently erasable with a few coffee dates and motivational quotes sent at midnight. "So am I still invited?" I asked, measuring each word. Danielle's eyes flicked to AJ, then to Claire, then back to me. "We were thinking it might be less complicated if you sat this one out. We don't want tension. There are words that tear, and there are words that sand. This one sanded me down to a smooth, numb plank. Sit this one out, like we're talking about a board game, not 16 years of birthdays and pancakes." "I paid for it," I heard myself say, not because I wanted credit, but because some part of me couldn't believe we were having a wedding math conversation without basic arithmetic. "That's not what this is about," AJ said. "We'll figure out the finances." "We?" I asked. "We," he repeated, and something like triumph flashed across his face. A boy who had just found a spare life in a video game. "I could tell you," I shouted. "I could tell you," I threw the brochure in the trash and slammed a door like a teenager in an after-school special. But I didn't. I did what men like me do when shame and fury bubble at the same time, and you've learned that loudness only convinces people you're unsafe. I went quiet. I said, "Okay." Then I asked if I could think about it. Danielle hugged me, lightly, like you'd hug a coworker who brought donuts, and said she knew I'd understand. That night, I sat at my desk and pulled the folder. Receipts are boring until they aren't. They were all in my name, my card, my signature. The venue? Me. The band? Me. The cake? Me. The florist? Me. The non-refundable clauses were highlighted, yes, but I also saw words like charge authorization and primary payer may revoke. I kept turning pages until I found something I'd forgotten. An email from the venue manager thanking me for choosing their all-inclusive package and confirming I was the contracting party. I slept 3 hours and woke up clear. I didn't make a speech. I didn't teach a lesson. I made phone calls. I was polite. I kept my voice steady, like a guy moving a load-bearing wall with temporary supports already in place. The venue manager opened with a cheerful, "We're so excited for the Hale Martinez wedding." I said there was a material change to the event. I said the contracting party was withdrawing. He shifted to stern. He used the words non-refundable. I used the words merchant dispute, service not rendered, written notice, and chargeback. He said they'd keep the deposit. I said I understood and asked for the rest in writing. The florist said she was heartbroken. The band's manager said he'd never seen anything like this. The cake lady cried. I apologized for the inconvenience and sent each of them a copy of the clause they had written. The printer warmed like a small sun. Before lunch, I called the card company. I told the truth. An event I was paying for was being reorganized in a way that excluded me, the payer, and I was withdrawing authorization for future charges. They opened cases. They flagged charges. The words temporary credit fluttered like little white flags into my inbox. At 3:41 that afternoon, Claire called me, breathless. "Mark, what did you do?" "Asked to stop paying for a wedding I'm uninvited from." "You're punishing her." "No, Claire. I'm protecting myself. And honestly, I'm protecting you too, because we've been funding disrespect and calling it love." She went quiet. Then she said something that cracked me open. "I thought if I kept the peace, we wouldn't lose her." "We already lost her," I said. "She just hasn't sent the invoice yet." Danielle texted at 7:02 that evening. "Dad, the venue said the card got declined." Then, at 7:09, "Can you fix it? They said we'll lose the date." Then, at 7:22, "Tom says he can help but not for all of it." Then at 7:40, "Please." It's amazing how quickly origins turns into arithmetic when the credit line closes. I didn't reply that night. I put my phone face down, made rice, and watched a video about a guy restoring a rusty plane. The next morning, I found a DM from a mutual friend, Sarah, one of Claire's cousins who'd always been kind to me. "Hey," she wrote, "you should know there's a group chat." She sent a screenshot. The chat's name was Team Blood. My name appeared 4 times. "He'll pay no matter what," one message read. "He's harmless. He just wants to feel included," read another. A third. "Worst case, we let him do a toast at rehearsal so he shuts up." Then a sticker of an ATM raining cash. Cruelty is often banal. It was 12 words, a sticker, and suddenly my hands were cold and my eyes were hot. I didn't forward it. I didn't walk into the living room holding my phone like a torch. I saved the screenshot. I put it in the folder with the receipts. I sat with it long enough to let the burn become a line I could see clearly from both sides. At noon, I asked Danielle to meet me at a coffee shop. She showed up with AJ. He wore a sweatshirt with the venue's logo, like he'd signed an endorsement deal. I ordered an Americano. Danielle didn't order anything, and suddenly I remembered she hates coffee, that she grew up on hot chocolate with too many marshmallows, that I used to steal one off the top just to make her fake mad. "I saw the guest list," I said, "and the group chat." Her cheeks flushed. AJ started to posture, blame the venue, blame the numbers, and I held up one finger. "Stop." He stopped. "This isn't about place cards. It's about respect. It's about the story you told me with your actions. The sentence you said, 'You're like a real dad,' and the sentence you proved, 'You're like a wallet.' I'm not angry, Danielle. I'm awake." "I didn't mean for it to be like this," she said, and her voice cracked. "I believe you didn't mean to make it hurt. But you meant the choices. And choices add up." AJ exhaled audibly, like I'd finally opened the door he was pacing behind. "So what now? You're just going to ruin everything because your feelings got hurt?" "No. You ruined the bridge. I'm just not floating a raft to the wreckage." "This is insane," AJ said louder now. "You're being petty over seating arrangements." "Petty," I repeated. "You uninvited me from an event I'm funding, mocked me in a group chat, and now you're surprised I won't keep writing checks? That's not petty. That's called having a spine." Danielle's eyes went glassy. "So you won't come. You won't help. You uninvited me. That was before we knew you'd. Before your plan met gravity. I get gravity." AJ leaned forward. "My family has lawyers. You signed contracts." "To pay," I said evenly, "not to be humiliated. And those contracts don't obligate me to fund an event that excludes me. Feel free to call your family's lawyers. I'll wait." The barista called someone's name. Nobody moved. The espresso machine sighed like an old dog. Danielle whispered, "Can we just reset?" I thought about all the resets over 16 years. The time she came home crying because a boy called her ugly, and I drove her for ice cream and told her beauty is what you build, not what someone assigns. The dented pan we used for birthday cakes because it made the corners crisp. The college application essays I read at midnight. The late fees I paid when she forgot her phone bill. The time I picked her up at 2 a.m. from a party she should never have gone to and didn't ask a single question because she was safe. And that was all that mattered. How love is a verb and money is a noun. And somewhere along the line she started treating them like synonyms. We can reset someday, but not before a wedding I'm not welcome at. The next 72 hours were chaos. The venue sent a final demand letter. I forwarded the contract page where my signature lived alone. The florist CC'd me on an email chain in which AJ's mother suggested using grocery store roses and getting creative with ribbon. The band offered to scale down to a duo. The photographer asked who the contracting party was now and whether they'd been paid. Everyone wanted to know who would be the adult in the room with a checkbook. It turns out you can have opinions, origins, and truths, but you still need a person to actually pay. 3 days after the coffee shop, Tom called me. I hadn't heard his voice more than twice in 16 years. He started smoothly, like a telemarketer who's done this before. "Man to man," he said. I let him talk. He called me petty. He accused me of ruining a young woman's big day because of my ego. I listened to him explain fatherhood to me like a motivational speaker who'd skimmed a parenting blog on a layover. When he paused for effect, I asked him one question. "Tom, what's Danielle's middle name?" Silence is loud when a man realizes what he doesn't know. "Her favorite color?" I continued. "Her best friend in middle school? The college she almost went to before choosing a state? The night she called me crying because she thought she'd failed organic chemistry?" He hung up. The wedding did not happen at the vineyard. They scrambled together a backyard plan B at AJ's parents' house with folding chairs borrowed from a church and a Bluetooth speaker that kept disconnecting. I didn't go. Claire went, but she left early and came home with red eyes and wouldn't talk about it. I heard about the rest from people who meant well and sent me blurry photos like storm chasers sharing footage. Danielle wore the laced-back dress, but in one shot, the lacing is crooked because there was no one there who knew how to tie it the way I'd learned from YouTube tutorials. Tom walked her between two planters. The officiant mispronounced AJ's last name. Someone made sliders that bled pink onto paper napkins. In one photo, Danielle is smiling, but it's the smile you make when the photographer says, "One more," and you're so tired your face just does the shape. Here's the part where you expect a flaming aftermath, some apocalyptic confrontation where I unload 16 years of swallowed gripes like an overturned junk drawer. Instead, quiet. Claire didn't speak to me for 4 days. She moved around the house like a ghost, making meals, doing laundry, existing in the same rooms but not the same atmosphere. Then she texted me a grocery list like nothing had happened. Then, 3 days after that, she said, "We need to talk." She sat at the kitchen table and started crying before the chair stopped moving. I messed this up. I thought I was keeping the peace, but I was just teaching her that you don't matter. I chose wrong, Mark. I chose wrong, and I'm so sorry. I don't want to be right, Claire. I want to be respected. By you, by her, by anyone who says they love me. I know. And I failed you. Can we fix this? Apologies are strange animals. They can be sugar you put on rotten fruit to make it smell like dessert. Or they can be a knife that cuts away what's dead so the tree stops wasting energy. Claire's sounded like the second kind. We sat there for an hour. We cried. We didn't hug at first because the hurt was still too sharp, but eventually we did. And it felt like the beginning of something instead of the end. 5 weeks after the backyard wedding, Danielle showed up at my door holding a shoebox. No text, no warning. Just her, standing on my porch in jeans and an old hoodie I'd bought her in high school. Inside the shoebox were things I'd forgotten. A Father's Day card she'd made with crayons that left waxy ridges, a Polaroid of us at a roller rink where I fell and she laughed without covering her mouth, a weird little clay turtle we made when she was 9 on a rainy afternoon when the power went out. "I should have given these to you before the wedding," she said, and her voice wobbled. "Or maybe I should have given you 1,000 other things first. Like basic decency, like respect, like the truth, which is that I got so caught up in what I thought a wedding was supposed to look like that I forgot what a father is supposed to feel like." "That sentence is heavy," I said. "I know. I'm here to carry some of it." We didn't hug. Not yet. We stood there, and I let the silence do the work that words couldn't. Then I stepped aside, and she came in. We sat in the kitchen, standing at first, then eventually sitting. She told me Tom left right after the backyard ceremony to catch a game, and she hasn't heard from him since, except for one text that said, "Congrats, kid." She told me the Bluetooth speaker cut out during the first dance, and they swayed in silence while people clapped offbeat. She told me the flowers looked like someone had just shoved stems into vases and called it done, and for the first time she laughed, a short, shocked bark like someone who tripped and didn't die. She asked if I could ever forgive her. I told her, forgiveness isn't a door, it's scaffolding. You build it one pole at a time. Some days it holds, some days it wobbles. The only thing that matters is whether both of us show up with a wrench. We started small. She called on Tuesdays. We made rules, no asking for money for 6 months, no demanding access for 3. We talked about meal prep, tenant drama at my duplex, the fact that she and AJ were already fighting about where to spend holidays, with a ferocity that made my left eye twitch. I didn't say, "You chose this." I asked, "Do you want a listening ear or advice?" Sometimes she said, "Ear." Sometimes she said, "Tell me what you do." And slowly, week by week, we rebuilt. Months passed. Ajay started working late. Then later, Danielle stopped mentioning him in our Tuesday calls. Then, in late spring, she said they were separated. I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I changed my oil and bought new boots and waxed the kitchen floor because some things need maintenance, whether hearts are breaking or not. When she told me AJ had been seeing someone else for months, I didn't say, "Of course he did." I said, "I'm sorry," and I meant it, because pain is pain, even when your spreadsheet predicted it. Here's the part you probably want, the revenge that snaps like a mousetrap, the moment where I stand on a podium and the crowd erupts. But the real revenge wasn't the chargebacks or the canceled deposits or the backyard vows with disconnected Bluetooth. The real revenge is quiet. It's a man who stops spending love where it isn't respected and watches his life get lighter. It's boundaries that click into place like outlets with child-proof covers. It's looking in the mirror and seeing a person you didn't throw under the bus to keep someone else's party going. Yesterday, an envelope arrived. Heavy cardstock. Gold border. 3 lines inside. "Thank you for stopping the bleeding. Thank you for making me feel it. Thank you for staying." At the bottom, in Danielle's handwriting, "Love, your daughter." Not stepdaughter, daughter. So that's what happened. I paid for my stepdaughter's wedding because she said I was like a real dad. Then she uninvited me. So I uninvited my credit card. Was I wrong for pulling the plug after they pulled my chair? Would you have eaten the cost and gone anyway, or done exactly what I did? Tell me what you'd have done in the comments. I genuinely want to hear your verdict. And if you made it this far and this story hit home, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and keeps more stories like this coming. Thanks for listening.